vCommission, our registration partner Valbeef, our digital growth partners Microsoft and InMobi, our sessions partner AdPub.social, our gold partners AdMetart and CollectSend Ads, our mobile attribution partner Branch, our bronze partners Offer 18, Amar Ujala, The Indian Express and Celebite, and our knowledge partner Nielsen. Wow. So with that, I would like to commence with our next session. This session is a very special panel discussion on the topic from likes to sales, impact of influencer marketing. And for the same, I would first like to welcome our moderator, Ms. Parul Bhargava, Chief Executive Officer of vCommission. Welcome, ma'am. And our esteemed panelists, Ahmed, VP and Head Digital Content and Social Media Marketing, HDFC Bank. Mr. Samriddh Dasgupta, Director, Marketing and New Initiatives, Bombay Shaving Company. Ms. Aanchal Chauhan, Head Media and Content, Bira 91. And Ms. Prajakta Koli, Indian YouTuber and Content Creator. Welcome to all of you. I would now request Ms. Bhargava to please take over. Thank you.
Thanks, Garima. Good morning, everyone. I hope this is not an overdose of me today morning, but I have some interesting panel and some interesting talk with the most amazing industry colleagues here. As an industry person, I think we always have conversations with marketeers on, sales and performance, since this is India Affiliate Summit. But, how influencer marketing is growing for different brands and influencers themselves, and how this is, converting into sales or how much is a very different, is a very interesting perspective, to have. Over the past one day, I have had some very interesting discussions with these great guys, and I would want everyone to, be a part of our panel. And please feel free to throw questions as and when you have them, so that we can take it up with them directly. First of all, I think though Garima has introduced, but let us all start with, quick introduction along with your experience of influencer marketing. So any one of you can start. Let's start with you, Prajakta.
Hello everybody, I am Prajakta Koli, aka Mostly Sane. I am a digital content creator. I have been a YouTuber for a little over 5 years now. I started in the Feb of 2015, and since then it's been quite a roller coaster. So I do comedy content. I also do a lot of real sit down, speak to the camera sort of sharing of experiences, basically just talking about anything under the sun sort of content. I also speak socially, is why influencer marketing has been quite a fun journey so far. A lot of great brands, a lot of even better brand collaborations, a lot of arguments every now and then, because when two creative energies come, it's always that's something that happens. But overall for me, it's been quite a pleasant surprise, because when I started doing YouTube videos, I did not just me, I don't think 5 years ago any of us saw influencer marketing even becoming a term in the first place. Influencer wasn't even a term when I started making YouTube videos. And everyone asked me, what do you do? I'm like, I make videos on the internet. And that was the end of that conversation. So influencer marketing has been extremely empowering, has been every now and then a great way of sort of just reaching out and communicating more with newer audiences, as well as newer sets of people who work with different companies and have different perspectives. And just it's been great so far. Keep it coming, guys.
Amazing. Who'll go next? Jahid?
Hi guys, I think I was facing some problem. I heard Prajakta though. First, thanks, Parul. Thanks for having me in this interesting conversation. Had enough of post-COVID scenario, how marketing should behave. I think this is one of the brilliant ones that I came across. Okay. So yes, see, I think, influencer marketing, the philosophy of influencer marketing has been deep ingrained in the DNA of HDFC Bank. Okay. If you see 25 years of HDFC Bank, we have not had a single brand ambassador, because we believe that, brand is no longer what we tell to the customer. Brand is about what the consumer tells every consumer. And that is where influencer marketing really comes up. Okay. Historically, we have used our employees, 80,000 strong employees as key influencers. Because no matter what face a brand has, you will still go and ask your father or your neighbor, your friends, the guy you trust the most as to what to do in your life, be it in terms of investments or the dream that you're trying to fulfill. Okay. That's where we came across, and that's how we also understood that influencer marketing is really important from a brand's dissemination point of view. Okay. And we started this. So be it a friendship day where there's a friendly banter, we thought let's get these two influencers who are really chit chat with each other, or be it during COVID when we understood that mental lockdown, mental pressure is really taking up toll. We got in terms of talking about mental health. Okay. Or be it when we had Mr. A.R. Rahman's campaign of Hum Haar Nahi Manenge, the resilience that India shows together along with the brand. Okay. We got a lot of singers to come along with this whole part of it. So from project to project, we have ensured that we have the right set of influencers. And I think now influencer marketing has become an integral part of our major campaigns, where we don't spend at all on brand ambassador, but we pick up very key, strong influencers. And the interesting part while we win awards on influencer marketing is how we use the influencers. Prajakta was talking about it. It's very important. How do we use them for the particular campaign? And that's the kind of, the brand guidelines that we follow for influencer marketing per se. But yeah, it's a very interesting journey that we have envisaged, and yep, it's going on.
Very interesting. Thanks, Jahid. Aanchal, would you like to go next?
Yeah. So I think, how Prajakta said that mentioned that she started like 5 years ago is pretty much the time around which, Bira also came about. So again, influencers was something which was coming up, was new. So for us, for at Bira, our consumers are young. And it's basically this generation of beer drinkers, and everybody is online. These are folks who are online, who are following people, with an opinion, who are talking about, associating with brands. On their own personal social handles when they feel that they sort of relate to the brands, right? So for us, it was always about brand advocacy online, and whether it was to our consumers or another step which basically ended up being influencers. So that's how our relationship with influencers has been, and for us, how we see influencers is essentially like people who have the access to the right set of audiences, right? They're people who are they're basically very close to the consumers. They're talking, basically talking and communicating and sort of, you consuming these products in their everyday life. So for us, influencers is also means to getting closer to our consumers through these people. And it's not about, partnering with an influencer through a logo presence or about them just, posting about the product. It's more about how does it fit into their content, right? How does it fit into their content organically? How are we able to sort of drive engagement? And we're not looking at influencers, and I mean that's sort of our approach that has been from campaign to campaign or I would say from the very start of time, that we're not looking at them as reach drivers, but as building engagement, credibility with consumers, and also to just being able to create content which is authentic and sort of builds a trust with not only their audiences but also consumers of our product. So that's typically how our approach has been, and also it's been about building long-term relationships with them. And how we see it is that it's a two-way conversation. That while we want to sort of want to work with people or sort of whether they are communities, groups, or individual influencers who would sort of help us in build that communication, build that narrative over a longer duration of time. And to sort of help us in our communication and what we want to sort of be able for the consumers to reach out to. But it's also like two-way in terms of the influencers, how we see them are also like business owners and entrepreneurs, right? So they also want to partner with brands who they feel would fit into their sort of tonality of content. So it's more like a building content which is both for the brand and for the influencer. So it's more about how we say it could be saying it's marketing with influencers as opposed to influencer marketing. So that's how it is at our end.
Very nice. Thank you. Samriddh?
Hey, thanks, Parul. Thanks, IMI. I head brand and new initiatives for Bombay Shaving Company. We are a young, extremely innovative grooming solutions brand, right? And one of the things that we do in terms of influencer marketing is sort of co-create a lot of stories about our products and about the way people feel about our products as they go out, right? So for us, influencer marketing is essentially a channel through which we are able to tell our story so much better and so much nicer than if the brand was just about to tell that, right? It's also about being super organized in the way we look at influencer marketing. So for us, influencer marketing is essentially a sort of it's a sales channel. It's not just an awareness channel. Because we are a direct to consumer brand, we do believe that there is a very clear sales impact that comes out of influencer marketing, right? So we sort of invest in that early stage. We find influencers who are not cat A, cat B, but sort of just starting off, and we invest in them early stage. We also let the editorial and the creative control sort of lie with the influencer under certain brand guardrails. But we don't try to control that conversation, because we believe that, if the brand starts to control conversations that are happening within the influencer's content piece, then we are doing disservice to the way the creator is sort of getting the content out there, right? So we don't like to do that too much.
Yes, that's right. I just want to say that.
Thanks, Prajakta. Yeah, it's true, right? I think fundamentally what happens is brands try to control the narrative too much, and then it just becomes the brand's voice and the brand's words, and that turns into a problem, right? Because fundamentally we are very good at throwing media at people. What we're not very good at inherently is telling the right stories, right? And stories come from individuals. Stories come from the soul. Stories don't come from media. That's one thing that I have learned over the last 16, 17 years that I've been doing this. Stories need to come from individuals, right? And Jahid mentioned this, right? That each of us becomes an influencer in our own right. So the stories that get passed from one person to the other, that's really what matters. And the way also we look at influencers is that it's not just about content creation. Each of them is a media channel by themselves, right? So keeping that lens, if every one of us is a media channel and we are broadcasting, whether it's a one-on-one or it's a one-to-many, if we are broadcasting things, then let's just let the control be with that person rather than be with the brand, as long as broad guardrails are sort of maintained, right? So that's the way we look at it. We are a young brand. We are a disruptive brand. We like to take risks. We have traditionally been perceived as a men's grooming company, and we have just launched a women's razor, which is like the #2 bestseller across all e-commerce, right? And we achieve that by making sure that we work with the right set of influencers or content creators, however you want to call them, but by working with them and making sure the content reaches far and wide, right? So for us, it becomes extremely sharply defined. We go wide only as much as our budgets allow us to, but I think we pick the right stories and pick the right storytellers. That's the way we look at it, Parul.
Amazing. So, see, guys, I told you we have a great panel today, and I'm sure you all get a hang of it by now. And you know who they are, what they do in the influencer space. My next question is for Samriddh, Zahid, and Aanchal. All three of you, as brands, how do you choose influencers? Do you have any criteria of minimum followers, or how do you choose influencers that you want to work with?
Okay, so for Bira, actually, what typically our approach would be, so like how Samriddh put it, right? They are content creators for us, and we don't perceive them to be as, let's say, influencers where we are paying for X number of deliverables. It's more about how can we get the story right and get the narrative out to a wider set of audiences. So for us, influencers have been a part of, I would say, every campaign. And it totally depends. The approach is fairly balanced depending on who we're sort of trying to reach out to. Whether it's a smaller sort of audience, we're reaching out to a couple of let's say targeting a particular city, or is it maybe like a pan-India campaign? So there's also the very balanced approach when it comes to what is the scale we're looking at. Whether it's, and we have sort of over the last 5 years managed to work across different stratas and categories. I would say from celebrities to macro influencers with certain amount of following, when you're looking at certain amount of sort of turnout, or it's more of a large scale communication, but also working with very people who are known for their content, who are doing great stuff in their respective niche, and not just going by the follower count. So I think it totally depends on what the objective of a particular campaign is. Which sort of helps you determine who are the people that you want to reach out to, especially for a category like us in alcohol. I think a filter that automatically comes in is that anyone who that we are engaging with or partnering with for any of our marketing campaigns has to be above legal drinking age. So Unfortunately, given how the nature of these platforms are, most of the content creators, a lot of them, in fact, great content creators, end up being in the below LDA or legal drinking age bucket. So for us, that sort of becomes the filter always when we're planning for campaigns.
Okay, then Samriddh.
You want to go ahead, Samriddh?
Yeah, I actually have very little to add to this. Yeah, it's the same filters, I think, across the board. Honestly, right? It depends on the objective. If I want something where I want to go to market super quick and I need a certain optimum awareness level, then I will choose a certain follower set. I will choose a little bit of an engagement appreciation on that follower set. So, which means that you are sort of investing on a higher, let's say, cat A plus sort of an influencer, right? And we do that. We do that, especially when you want to break through clutter and you want to launch something. That happens. That's a normal thing. There is an always on strategy also, right? So like, and that is really where influencer marketing sort of comes in on a regular basis, because that's a monthly investment that goes. And for that, you are not really trying to solve for, hey, is there like a maximum number of followers? I think there what you're trying to do is try to find those macro storytelling capabilities, the ability to take that narrative and make it into a specific community driven conversation, right? We do a lot of vernacular content. Now, that does not necessarily mean that we are solving for followers. What we are solving for is, within that vernacular, is there a higher engagement rate with someone, right? So we look at those parameters. For us, we also have two channels, right? We're looking at Instagram and we look at YouTube, because products like ours, there's an inherent search across both these channels. So the lens to choose on YouTube is very different from the lens that we choose on Instagram. So for us, we have a very channel specific strategy also. In fact, there is a question also in the chat, I think, which is about which is, I think, fundamentally about what is the single most important metric to measure the impact of influencer marketing, right? And I'm sorry, Jahid, if you don't mind, I'll just quickly speak about that for just 1 second, right? For us, from a brand perspective, and I see that coming up over and over again. It again boils out to that exact specific thing. If the campaign requires me to generate X amount of awareness and X number of sessions on my website, then that's the metric that I want to push for, right? But at the same time, there is a very clear indicative click through. There is a very clear indicative sort of click through to sales, and that is the way we will measure the impact of an influencer. So we do look at a return on investment, which is a very sales driven return on investment also. And we sort of start investing with that person over and over again. So broadly, that's the way we look at it. Sales as well as awareness.
Cool. So I think, Parul, just to answer your question, earlier one first, is obviously whatever, Aanchal and Samriddh has added, there are 2-3 important things that I'd like to add over here. A lot of people have asked me, or they were telling, when they pitch influencers, they're like, this influencer has these many followers. Okay, go for them. Okay. Want to specify very strictly that we don't go by the quantity of followers. We very strictly go by the quality of the followers that they have. It's a financial domain. Okay, we want to understand that the content creator, for whom is he creating content? Are they key decision makers? Yeah, there will be a 20% overlap everywhere. We cannot be sure that 100% of the population is target population. But majority of the followers should be falling in a way in the bucket, who are the key decision makers who are interested and invested in that particular campaign that we're looking forward to. That's one of the key metrics for us. Also, we are very stringent about the fact that the influencer has lived the experience or not. Okay, like let's say if I'm talking about, we are a financial in the industry. Nobody gets up in the morning thinking aaj loan lena hai. Unfortunately not, they will think ki aaj Bira lena hai, aaj shave karna hai. That's the advantage that these two guys have. They will not think about us. Okay. But we are the enablers for your dreams. That's how we think ourselves as, right? If you dream of something which is aspirational, we are the ones that I can actually enable you as. So what we try to do is we try to see, okay, if I have to get somebody who's a guy who's very good in auto, or a very good in consumer electronics, like let's say it's a HD TV, okay, 41-inch that you want to buy. Okay, how can I enable you as? So in that particular per se is a guy who is doing a very good, let's say, TV review, might be a very good influencer who is then talking about my product also as how to fulfill the dreams. So that's how we kind of, break up our influencers into. And obviously then the regional presence, then how good are they in their regional sense? And to strictly don'ts is no political affiliation, okay, no political opinionated, right? That does not help us at times, okay. And what are the brands they're associated with otherwise? I hope there is no competition brand, and the other brands that they're working out is good brands, okay. I think, yeah, that's the kind of blueprint that we work in.
Cool. So I think we just spoke about how do you guys choose influencers. Before I move to Prajakta side of the story, I would also want to ask all three of you again, how do you measure the success of this influencer campaign? Though Samriddh did answer a little bit about it, but then for you, Jahid, for Aanchal, do you guys measure sales? How is an influencer campaign classified or termed as successful, or something you want to reinvest in?
Prajakta is just taking a note of it, what I can see in her mind, that how it gets shaped up in the marketer's mind,
I'm thinking that I am so happy to be a part of this, because I get to be a part of this inner discussion that no creator is a part of right now. I'm just making mental notes. Like, must tell the team about this next.
मेरा वीडियो का होता क्या है ये पता चले जरा आज.
Listen, honestly, I would never get this insight. Like, I could just be sitting in the audience right now listening to you all, and I'm the winner here. I can tell you that.
It helps all of us. So see, Samriddh gave a very interesting angle that it's a consumer brand. It's directly benefiting them in their sales numbers. For us, we think the way we are using influencers, I told you, we believe that these influencers are the ones who are disseminating the right message that we want to. Okay, not necessarily leading directly to sales, but what's the brand lift that I get after doing this this campaign? Has the consideration for my product from this particular campaign where I used influencer marketing improved or not improved? Okay. Also, we treat influencer marketing like an ATL campaign. What happens in a typical ATL campaign, right? You don't get direct influencers. What you do get is that day, if a major influencer campaign has happened, has your direct searches increased? Has your organic searches increased? Are people talking about it? So we do have a lot of ORM tools for listening, right? Are people talking about it? Is the positive sentiments increasing? That's how we track all about our influencer marketing. And swipe ups do help, and we have got significant swipe ups.
Yeah. And I think just to add to Jahid's and Samriddh's point also, our category is such for us. While we would love to track sales and be able to sell beer online, unfortunately, it doesn't happen. So for us, the metrics that actually, end up sort of being followed would be things like this. Like, for larger scale campaigns, we're looking at things like awareness. And again, they become like, how are we able to sort of drive any sort of consideration? And as I correctly mentioned, there are a lot of social listening tools that, we are sort of following when we do an influencer campaign. How much has the engagement gone up? Even little things like what we do is that we track consumer queries like very, very closely. So how have consumer queries gone up? Like, could be about a new product that's launched in the market, or it could be about any campaign that's happening in a particular, or any event that's happening in a city. So how do we see that whole spike of consumer queries going up, and general overall positive sentiment? If it's an influencer program, how much supplementary content or are we able to sort of create through that? Because a lot of times what happens is that through these influencer campaigns, what we've noticed is we end up getting a great amount of user-generated content. And for a young brand like ours, it works really well, because it's not only that we're not investing in creating X amount of assets would have resulted in a X amount of cost. Here, we are working and partnering with an influencer, and in return, we're getting so much of content, not only from them, but also from consumers across. So that also becomes a very important metric for us to measure, when we're tracking our campaigns. And the only sort of, angle where sort of sales fits in for us is when we're running campaigns for a merch. So that's the only part where we can actually sort of track sales. But otherwise, overall, it's about, building awareness, consideration, overall, number of conversations, and just overall positive sentiment for the brand.
Makes sense. Thank you, guys. Prajakta, I'll now move on to you. I'm sure our audience wants to know more about how it all started for you. How has your videos evolved over time? We also have a question from the audience asking, how does one become from a nobody to an influencer? And I'm sure you would be a great example for them to follow.
Wow, question is a slippery slope. How does one become a nobody to an influencer? But before I start, Aanchal, had a flashback when you said that you guys started in 2015 too. It is so funny. So when Bira had just started, you were one of the first brands to send me a PR package. And I come to work one day and I see beer and I'm like, I did not call for that. And everyone at work is like, you have been calling for beer? I said, I didn't call for it. It has a note. And then I kept getting beer every month for like 2-3 months. And I was like, listen, I love, I appreciate it. But yeah, it's just a story time. Anyway, I start, so I'm sorry, I talk about how my videos have evolved.
Yeah, your journey, how you started.
So I started. So honestly, the dream was always to be a radio jockey. It was never about, because when I was growing up, I want to be a YouTuber wasn't a thing. So when I got a job at a radio station and very quickly realized that I 100% suck at it, I was like, great, what do we do now? And I was too stubborn growing up to have a plan B. And that's when I met Sudeep, who's from One Digital Entertainment. They are the network that manages my work, my channel, everything. So he met me at the radio station. He's like, listen, you've got great energy. You should have a YouTube channel. And I was like, bro, I already don't earn any money. Okay. Don't tell me more ways of staying broke for the rest of my life. He's like, listen, just give me a call. I'm like, fine, I'll give you a call. I was anyway failing at radio. I was like, chalo, let's try this. What is this? So he kept telling me that, I don't know how he had the vision, honestly, but he kept telling me that, this is going to be big. Everything's going to go digital. You have to be, ride on the wave. Don't let it pass. You have something here that you can create content on. And I was like, sure. So when I started, I was extremely blind. Like I said in the beginning, I did not know that brands would pay me money. I didn't know anyone would pay me money. I was just like, why? Like, I'm just a girl sitting in my room making videos. Like, why are you giving me money for this? If I was a brand, I'd be like, effort to dikhao, kuch to karo alag sa. What are you doing? Iske paise bhar raha hu main. So it started off where every day was new, and it still is, honestly. And everything was new. So I have kind of just been in this constant loop of trial and error with everything, with content, with collaborations with other artists, with collaborations with brands and stuff like that. But so far, I think it's been extremely, it's been wonderful, honestly. I love my job and I love doing what I do. I love creating content, and it's a great thing to wake up to.
Okay, great, thanks.
Sorry, I missed the question. I'm sorry. How do you know? How do you become
an influencer?
So I feel like that's the power that the internet gives you. So I feel like it's each person to his own, where you decide. Honestly, for me, how do I decide if one is an influencer or not? If I go, and I heard this in a TED talk somewhere where I completely agree to it. If someone comes to your profile and goes back feeling awkward or guilty or insecure or not so happy, then you're not influencing anything. But if someone comes to your profile and goes back feeling happy and empowered and positive, I feel like then you're an influencer. Then you're creating positive change, and that's then you can call yourself an influencer. So it does not, like everybody else is saying, it has nothing to do with numbers. It has nothing to do with that. It really is, because I feel like it's not a pyramid anymore. It's no more like these many creators on top and then these influencers. It's not. I feel like it's a globe where each person is catering to a different audience, to a different niche. I have about 6 million followers on YouTube, but maybe there's somebody who watches a lot of financial content who will not know about my existence. And for them, I'm at the bottom of the food chain. You know what I'm saying? And then maybe there's someone who's watching a lot of, so it's just, content has become so dynamic, especially in our country, where it's no more a pyramid. It's no more, biggest influencer, smallest. All of that is just blurry. It's just a globe. It depends what angle you're looking at it from,
Well,
also, Parul, this question, like, how to become a good influencer is like, how do you become a good human being? It's not like that, You cannot try to become a good human being. It's like what you do what you love the most. You become an influencer by yourself. Because then once you
try to become a good human being, if you can, somewhere.
You will become. Yeah.
Wonderful. I think I will also take the next question from the audience, which applies to all of you. How does Instagram differ from YouTube in your approach to influencer marketing? So it will be great to have the brand perspective on it. And Prajakta, since you are mostly on YouTube, then your perspective on it as well. How does Instagram differ from YouTube in your approach to influencer marketing? Very interesting question.
Do you want me to take it?
Yeah, all of you, all four of you.
Go for it.
So I think it really depends on understanding your audience's behavior, because as a consumer, there's very different mindsets when your consumer is going to YouTube and when your consumer is going to Instagram. YouTube is a very conscious effort when there's time and attention that you have to spare. And nobody will open YouTube कि अच्छा चलो time pass के लिए खोल लो देख लो क्या है. You will always open YouTube कि चलो no, I have 10 minutes to kill, let me see what's up. Instagram, however, like everybody says, it's like opening your fridge. काम हो ना हो, you will keep opening it over and over again throughout the day. आते जाते मिल गया phone, मतलब so many times between two apps you'll go to your Instagram and you'll open it. So Instagram पे audience behavior is very different from YouTube, where that long form content might not work as well on Instagram as it will on YouTube. On Instagram, your audience's attention is what, 2 seconds? If you can't have them in 2 seconds, they're going to scroll up. So you have the first 2 seconds, which are very super crucial for you to make sure that you get your audience engaged. But that's not on YouTube. YouTube is a little more, so it's 7 seconds or 8 seconds on YouTube. But it's just like, where in like content world, it's like a huge difference. So I think as a creator, working with brands or not, I think everything changes with the way you edit your content, with the way you package your content, with the duration of the content, with the language of the content. So although these two platforms can sort of run hand to hand every now and then, where you try to push your Instagram on your YouTube, or you try to push your YouTube on your Instagram and sort of make them work in harmony, but it's still two very different content patterns and consumer behavior that you deal with when you're writing content.
Yeah. Two absolutely different animals here when you look at them, right? I mean, just inherent human behavior is so different in each of them. And I'm not going to speak about the amount of time people give either, because I think YouTube people sort of just sit back at night and they end up watching 2 videos before they go to bed. So it's like my downtime. So that's a lot of YouTube. I think there is also a little bit of a narrative thing here, right? You build a stronger visual narrative on Instagram. So think of it like a feed, right? There's a functional difference between the two when you look at channels. So Instagram, there is a feed to it where you end up sort of creating a visual storytelling, right? So there's a narrative build that's happening there. The moment you come to YouTube, you're sort of solving for that one piece of content, and you want to solve for it really well because there's a search happening on that in most cases, right? At least that's the way we look at it from a direct to consumer brand, right? So there's a search intent that's happening on YouTube. You want to solve for that search. So you want to build a DIY. You want to build a influencer who's speaking about that content and giving their perspective. Very critical to look at from a sort of a sharp perspective. On Instagram, what we do is we want to build a delightful visual appeal. We want to make people sort of drool over our products. It's almost about sort of creating a visceral experience when you're there, right? So two very different animals. Attention spans are very different. People open Instagram a lot more, but the engagement rates on Instagram have been sort of dropping like how. We have yet to figure out why that happens. I think there's like a bunch of algo changes that keep taking us by surprise. YouTube, little bit more consistent. Broadly, we understand that there is a stronger attribution that one can build from an awareness funnel on YouTube. Also links back stronger from a remarketing perspective. So very tactically, if one was to look at it, you'll be able to use performance media on YouTube a little bit stronger than you would be able to use on Instagram, which is mostly just ad dissemination. So I know I'm not speaking only about the content piece, but I'm also speaking about the sort of the performance media piece to it, right? And that is critical to understand. And as you know, and Prajakta is strong across both, right? I think she has about 2.5 million followers on Instagram, so it's not like she's not strong on Instagram. But even on your channel, right, Prajakta, if you were to look at it, your content slicing is very different across both, right? So you're solving for those first 3 seconds, and then you're solving for the first 10 seconds, right?
Yeah.
So that's the way brands also look at it. Right? We also look at it from that perspective, right? Is it thumb stopping enough for the first 3 seconds? If it isn't, then clearly it doesn't sort of pass through the litmus test. At least for Instagram. And then on YouTube, you have a little bit more time. There's a little bit more patience there. So we try and sort of use that to our advantage for at least as long as we can.
Yeah,
God
like
only knows what's going to happen as we go ahead.
True. Like I'm so with you there. Like I feel like communication on YouTube can be like this. It can be this, that, So here's this product that I'm using, and here's what it does to me, and this is how I think you should use it. On Instagram, it has to be, oh my God, guys, I used this, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then I love it, and there's a link in my description. Click and use my. So it's just like I just feel like you have to yell things at everybody. That this is going on. Don't scroll. Listen to me. But on YouTube, it's a little more like behavior. It's extremely different. Content just alters so much according to audience behavior on both these platforms. I'm like, you're the same person, and you wouldn't listen to me on Instagram, but you'll watch my videos on YouTube. You traitor.
Yeah, that's also about the way you make it look like. Bira has a beautiful Instagram handle. Like, Aanchal, your Instagram handle on Bira is beautiful.
So for us, that's what I was about to come to. For us, Instagram is our universe, right?
Yeah.
It is that there are all the content creators there, and I think everyone, it's literally like you're in between work, and as Prajakta said, you're switching apps, but you still drop onto Instagram, right? So you need to see that, like, amazing picture of a chill Bira, where you're like, okay, let's grab a beer from the fridge before I get back to my next meeting. So for us, I think that's is short form, and that that visual delight of a consumer on Instagram, what works. And that sort of translates into like also consumer action, and the amount, and for us, that's what I'm saying. So for Instagram, you see a lot of our content is a lot of user generated content, which is great. And everyone's trying to innovate, whether they're artists who are doing like, doodles on our cans, or they're like, people who are animating stuff and sending it out. So I think the kind of community and the love that we're able to sort of generate on Instagram, for us, that doesn't happen on YouTube. And like rightly Samriddh, you mentioned, like, YouTube then becomes your media channel, right? You're doing long form content. You're able to sort of really target and, be specific to who you want to reach out to. And whereas Instagram is like, your everyday joy, literally. So that's exactly how it works for us. Yeah.
So I think these guys have covered it all. Parul, just two things as a marketer. What's important to me? When I have to see, and I'll restrict my conversations strictly to influencer. How am I using an influencer on YouTube? How am I using an influencer on Instagram? Okay. When I have to build a long-term brand presence, like let's say if I'm introducing a new category, nobody knows about that product. Okay. I will use YouTube as a long-term brand establishment, because across multiple videos, across multiple long story format, my brand will be slowly recognize it. If it has to be hard, fast, and tactical, that's where Instagram comes in. If it's swipe ups, if it's more traffic, that how many traffic are coming into your own property, that's where I use Instagram for a short-term goal. I think that's how we kind of mediate between these two channels. Yeah.
Can I just add one more little thing? Another, and I'm sure you also go through this when you're studying audience behavior. It is so crazy because it's not like people are not spending a lot of time on Instagram. It's not like their daily average is like 12 minutes because it's fast content. There are people like I know, like most of the young audience today spends anywhere between 2 to 5 hours in a day, sometimes on the weekend, on Instagram. So time spent kar rahe hain, bas एक piece of content per time nahi spend kar rahe. So you will spend 2 hours watching 15-second reels, but you will not watch a 15-minute video. You know what I'm saying? So I just feel it's just I'm like, what do you want? It's extremely difficult to get that. But I think over time you just get to a place where, because you're also a consumer, so that is something that I do, where I'm like, because I am also a consumer of products and of the internet, I will just sort of study sometimes my own behavior towards different apps.
It's actually quite strange to me that none of you spoke about stickiness of content on YouTube versus Instagram or different platforms. Isn't that a factor as well? A good, important differentiating factor?
See, I think audiences, they are sticky towards both the apps, and that's why they are the number 1, 2, 3 apps. Facebook, Insta, and YouTube are the
not stickiness toward the app, stickiness of your content. So maybe a YouTube content which is not trending now can be searched later on, but not Instagram.
No, that's why they hashtag. See, Parul, the whole thing is
also spoke about that, right? It's about building long-term content as opposed to short-term, right? And it depends on where you want to sort of invest at whatever stage you are in, right? So for us, we build YouTube long-form content because people searches don't really change. Seasonal searches sort of just remain true, right? Grooming searches sort of remain true. So we build long-form content which sort of stays there, and that's what Jahid was also mentioned. And in terms of stickiness, honestly, I think it's a very noisy world, yeah, Parul. I think the time that now people have in terms of recognizing content and sort of emotionally getting involved with the content is so little. So much being created. So what is great today ceases to be great tomorrow, maybe even in a few hours. I'm sorry, I'm probably being cynical, but that's a marketer in me speaking. I think it's just becoming a noisier world. Stickiness over sort of. It's an overcommitting thing from a content perspective. I think if a content piece can commit to it that it's going to be super sticky, I'll be super happy. But if it just helps me get my metrics up for the short term and the long term that I'm looking at, I'm okay with it, man. I'm not solving for stickiness, honestly speaking.
In fact, a very interesting point, Samriddh, that you've brought in. I'll chip something in over here. Yeah. The reason why brands are moving to influencer marketing, see, the whole content creation is noisy, no doubt about that. Noisier are the ads. The way ads clutter, that's crazy, right? You want to read an article, it's only 1/4 of the portion that you can read. 3/4 is, kind of hidden with ads. Okay. People are using ad blockers. So that's one of the other key reasons why brands love to move to this kind of influencers, who talk about it natively seeded in. It's not a distraction. Okay. I think that's one of the reasons. And that's what helps us.
Great. We have time for one last question. I think we covered a lot about performance on different platforms while we were talking about Instagram versus YouTube and stickiness. So I think I'll just throw a question to all of you. How, to brands, how do you approach different influencers basis different sales, targets that you have or ROI metric that you have? And to Prajakta, do you guarantee sales to brands? And how do you approach a campaign if a brand comes and tells you that, hey, I just want sales, whatever you've got to do, you do it. So
Prajakta says yes, she's in so much trouble, it's not funny.
Honestly, I don't think, like I said, because content and our audience is so dynamic, I don't think there's anything I put up on the internet that I can guarantee. Anything. I don't think there is, whether branded or not, I don't think I can ever put out a picture saying, ye picture na 5 lakh views aa jayenge. I don't know. It could get 10,000, it could get 15 lakh. I don't know. There are pieces of content which I have had a lot of trust on. मैंने इतने भरोसे से बनाया, मैं कहा ये वायरल होके रहेगा, and they have tanked to a point where there are sometimes dents that I'm still recovering from. And then there are videos which I didn't even think would ever click, and those have gone viral. You know what I'm saying? So every time I'm having a conversation with a brand, why it's important for me to make it a collaboration is because that's when I am in familiar territory. You know what I'm saying? Where I know this is content I create. I know these things have worked for my audience and they've accepted this content as is why I know this will work. But if you come to me with a completely different a video idea, which I have never done before, like for example, there was this brand who tried to convince me to sell highlighters. So highlighters are makeup things you put here. I didn't know that. In my head, when they came to me, I thought either highlighters as in this, like things that you use to highlight notes. So I started going on that and they were like, what are you doing, bro? It's makeup. And I'm like, see, like, I don't understand the language. There's no way in hell I can sell highlighters to my audience and not look like a sellout. It's not going to work for you. It's not going to work for me. And that's when we looked at an alternative approach where I tried to do a beauty blogger parody. where then the brand wasn't okay with sort of taking the sarcastic route and stuff like that. That didn't quite work out. So I just feel like there is no way I can ever go up to a brand and say कि हो जाएगा, viral कर दूंगी. नहीं होगा. मुझे नहीं. अगर पता था तो मैं हर वीडियो वायरल कर देती. But I think one thing that definitely happens is that there are a few pegs that I know will work. There are a few approaches that I know will work, and I push them, and touch wood, up tak to they've been working okay.
Yeah, man, no, I don't think we demand anything like that from content creators. Yeah, it just doesn't work like that, right? I mean, Zahid mentioned that how it is an ATL space. It is, right? You're broadcasting. Now, when you're broadcasting and when you and it's not narrow cast, right? It's not sharp cast. You're broadcasting. You want more people to see it. You want a lot of people to sort of come in and engage with it. No, it's not about a sales metric, and we are never going to hold a content creator accountable for that piece, right? It's up to us how we choose the content in some form. I think it is our prerogative at the end of the day to make sure that we're choosing right.
And it's your money.
Beyond that, yeah, but of course, with great power comes great responsibility and all that shit. But but the fact is that no, to hold a content creator accountable for sales outcome, I think that's just not happening, man. No ways. Yeah. That's at least the way we look at it.
Is, in case you want to make a good, like let's say you are doing influencer marketing, there are a lot of influencers in the same campaign. Somebody is striking out. There's a very interesting feature in Facebook, especially, that is called fans. What you can do is, if you have your first-party audience there, take that audience, take that influencer's campaign, and kind of broadcast it to your specific audience. So you can amplify the reach of the influencer, not only to influencer's audience, but your own audience.
Correct.
Something you can do, and that's also helping us a lot.
Yeah. But again, I mean, I think the question was around sales, right? Yeah.
That, if you want.
I mean, yeah. I mean, there's a whole bunch of remarketing, retention marketing pieces that can be built, but I think that is not the parameter in terms of deciding what influencer to go with. Just to answer the question.
Very nice. Very interesting. Okay. I see Garima.
Something I think.
Garima is up. Are you telling us that our time is up?
Oh.
Yes.
Okay. So I think very interesting session, some very interesting points on influencer marketing behind the marketeer's perspective and campaign planning, as well as on the influencer side. So out and out, what I would like to conclude this as is very, very informative on how brands look at influencers to provide or put forward a message, and how influencers would really like their space to put forward that message in their most original way to their audience, because they know their audience, and that's how both goals can be met, whether long term or short term, depending on what the campaign aspires to be. So I would want to thank all of you for all the time that you have spent with me yesterday and today, and to our audience who has been wonderful. Your questions were amazing, and I had a lot of fun hosting this panel.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Parul ma'am.
Thank you so
to
much.
all the panelists for this really amazing session. Thank you to the audience for making the session so interactive with so many questions. We would now take a small break before we move on to our next session, and I would request all the attendees, including our panelists, to please visit our exhibiting space, which has over 25 exhibitors, to check out their amazing offerings.